All-star voting has opened up in baseball, and could we be close to the return of some players that were demoted earlier in the season? All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, June 7th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/Locked On MLB and use code, all lowercase, Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome in, everybody. Happy off day. Well, as you're listening to this, the series against the Brewers start. We'll preview that at the very end of the episode, but today is an off day episode. So happy Friday to everybody. Got a few different things I want to cover today. We're going to talk about all-star voting opening up, who potentially could be, just kind of a fun conversation, who is kind of on the radar, if you will, for the Detroit Tigers and representing the Tigers in the all-star game. Also want to talk MLB just released Thursday morning, released a list of the top 10 pitchers in Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about where Tarik Skubal ranked on said list. Then we are going to spend a decent amount of time looking at some players that were demoted earlier in the season. Just look at the Toledo Mud Hens roster in general. Maybe talk about some players who could be working their way back to the Major League roster. And then we'll end the show by doing a preview. Talk about the next couple of series, really the rest of June, and then specifically the Brewers series at home that starts today on Friday, obviously, as well. So let's start off by talking about the all-star voting that has opened up for Major League Baseball. And, off rip, like Tarik Skubal, right? There you go. That was a really fun conversation. We can move on, right? Tarik Skubal is very obviously the one player who should get comfortably the most votes out of anybody in a Tigers uniform. And if there is only one representative for your Detroit Tigers this year, which I think is still somewhat likely, honestly, pretty likely, I think that there's no doubt in anyone's mind it should be and will be, assuming health, Tarik Skubal. Okay, so we can just start off by saying that. Now, outside shots, other candidates that are on the radar, I do think Jack Flaherty has somewhat of a case here. If he continues to pitch as he has the last 3 or 4 weeks, he is going to pitch his way into being in that conversation. Then obviously Reese Olson as well. I think the thing with Flaherty, is that he gets a lot of strikeouts. That's always a good, especially for, like national pundits and national media really like strikeouts. Also, Flaherty has a history, right? Flaherty got Cy Young votes back in, 2019, his really incredible second half there. So you have some notoriety. It's a name that people have seen before. I think Flaherty, again, obviously talent and the production rather going forward is going to be the biggest factor. If he can continue pitching like he has his last 4 or 5 starts, then he's certainly going to pitch his way into that conversation. With Olson, I think he just doesn't have the notoriety. Like, I think he should be much more in that conversation than a lot of people are maybe giving him credit for, or than he is, because I just don't think he is at all. I don't expect him to be really anywhere close to the All-Star game, but I think that's kind of just because he's the, fourth or fifth, I guess, pitcher in the rotation on the Detroit Tigers, and the national media just isn't really talking about him whatsoever. So I would be really shocked if he was on there. Now, I think that for Tigers fans that are voting, there's an argument for making him someone that you kind of push the narrative on a little bit. But again, I don't expect him to. And there's also a lot of really good pitchers, starting pitchers, especially in the American League. That would be, again, he would have to maintain kind of the level he's been at for another month for I think a lot of people to start turning heads and being like, okay, this isn't just a hot start. Like this is maybe just like what he is. Whereas Skubal has been doing this for almost a year now, ever since he got healthy last season. So I want to start off with those three just because I think they're really, again, kind of layups for this conversation. Obviously, pitching in general is going to be really easy. Now, if you would have asked me in April, I would have said Jason Foley was a pretty easy, borderline slam dunk candidate to be on this list as well. But I really don't think anyone in this bullpen is even going to get a look, right? And when you have bad teams, as we are very well aware now, after, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of bad baseball here in Detroit, usually every team has to get one all-star. Usually they just put your closer on there or your best reliever, and they just go, okay, have fun. There's your representative. Last year we had Michael Lorenz, and that was kind of a weird thing just in general, like as is. But that's generally what they do. We got 2 years of Gregory Soto being our all-star representative, right? And so I think that this year, because Tarik Skubal is just so painfully obviously going to be an all-star, assuming he's healthy, I don't think we're going to have a reliever, which I guess is like cool. I guess, I don't know, is that a step in the right direction? Is that maybe I'm really just grasping at straws here, and that's just being like way too overly optimistic, and that's not a thing. But I don't know, like not having it just be some random reliever or Michael Lorenzen, who's only on a 1-year deal and going to get traded at the deadline. Like that's, I guess, at least something. If there is any silver lining, I guess, sure, whatever. Now looking at the offense and looking at the position players in this conversation, this is what voting has opened up for position players, and I don't think there's anyone that's even really going to be close, to be completely honest with you. And that's not a new thing. We haven't had, when was the last time we had a position player get voted in? Justin Upton in 2017, I feel like, is the answer to that question. Michael Lorenzen last year, and then like Miguel Cabrera technically in 2022, but that was a like swan song type of thing. That wasn't because he was like good enough to actually be an all-star that year. So I don't even really like, sure, like for technicality reasons, I guess it counts, but that doesn't even really count to me. Gregory Soto, Shane Green, Joe Jimenez, Michael Fulmer and Justin Upton in 2017, Miguel Cabrera in 2016, and then man, look at the glory days. Look at 2013. Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, Torrey Hunter, Johnny Peralta, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander. That's 6 representatives voted in. Man. 2008, only Carlos Guillen. Yeah, 2008 was a weird year. 2007, Carlos Guillen, Maglio, Polanco, Pudge, Verlander. And then you have, what is this, 95 to 2003. The Tigers only had 1 representative every single one of those years, which is just hilarious. Those were some dark times. And then it's kind of repeated itself. We've only had 1 for, every year, again, outside of Miguel Cabrera, only 1 since 2017. So there you go. History repeats itself. That's just how it goes. So when talking about, now that I just went on a complete like ADHD side tangent about former all-stars for the Detroit Tigers, I mean, Riley Green, I guess, is in that conversation, but like, I don't think so. He's got an OPS under 800 at the time of this recording, and he struggled a lot over the last, a lot. It's been some ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster the last 5 or 6 weeks. I shouldn't say he struggled a lot. He still has, again, an OPS of around 800. But the other thing that he has going against him is just the position he plays. American League outfield is loaded and has been for the last 10 or 15 years. American League outfield is just stupid juiced. And so I don't think Riley Green's going to be in that conversation. Like Matt Vierling, like, no. He's been swinging a hot stick lately. Like, no, Matt Vierling's not going to be an all-star. I got a few more thoughts on this. We'll talk Kerry Carpenter a little bit, and then we'll move on. All right, I promise. We'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you all today about our friends over at Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from America's top insurers with just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even talk you through the process step by step. Your work life insurance policy may not offer you protection for your family's needs, and even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius is the best, and they truly have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another. So you can trust their guidance from these agents completely and fully. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So get peace of mind and find the right insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will be back on Monday recapping this series against the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll preview that at the end. Also talking about anything else that happens in Tigers world over the weekend. Also be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the free 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, or for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, so talking about the all-star voting that has opened up, we'll move on from this. I've probably spent too much time on it as is, but just talking about the lack of really, I don't know, like legitimate candidates on the offensive side of the ball, which is nothing new. That's been a thing for, again, the better part of almost a decade now. I do think that if Kerry Carpenter was healthy, there would be a little bit more of an argument for him at designated hitter. I think that is just we talked about a lot yesterday. It just really sucks that he is not in the lineup. We've seen again 6 total runs in that Rangers series. Thank goodness the pitching showed up. You had 2 of your best pitchers on the bump. You were able to take 2 of 3. But this offense is going to be in big trouble if they don't get some improved performances and some players stepping up. Riley Green, I don't know, Matt Vierling, I guess. Andy Ibanez, like it's as you can tell, the depth really falls off the table with Torkelson getting demoted and struggling, and then Kerry Carpenter getting hurt. So also just a gripe, like a bone to pick. Why was Javi Baez in the Tigers graphic for like voting for All-Stars? What are we doing, man? Like you're just at some point you're just, and like maybe I don't know, like maybe someone's boss was like, you have to put him on there, and like fair enough. I'm not trying to blame the people. It's actually a cool graphic. I'm not trying to blame the Tigers social media department, but they actually I think are one of the better ones to do a fantastic job. But it's just so wild to be like, vote for the Tigers, and then Javi Baez, who is literally one of the worst hitters in the qualified hitters in the history of baseball at the moment. He has an OPS that starts with the number 4. Just really, really hilarious to me. Okay, so we'll move on from that. Kind of a natural transition. MLB came out with their top 10 pitchers in baseball, their pitcher power rankings, if you will. It was a panel of writers for MLB.com, all voted. And the top 10 pitchers in baseball go as follows. Number 10, Max Fried. Number 9, Shota Imanaga. Number 8, Paul Skeens. Number 7, Tyler Glasnow. Number 6, Tanner Houck. Number 5, Corbin Burns. Number 4, Luis Gil, who's had a phenomenal season for the New York Yankees. A lot of injuries over the last 3 or 4 years and is finally fully healthy and pitching unbelievably. Number 3, Zach Wheeler. Number 2, Ranger Suarez. That is 2 of the top 3 pitchers in baseball play for the Philadelphia Phillies. Dave Dombrowski strikes again. Talk about the farm system all you want, baby. You know what Dave does? He freaking wins. Okay, I will be a Dave Dombrowski defender till the day I die. And then number 1, the number 1 pitcher in baseball, Tarik Skubal. I just think that's awesome. I don't have too much else to add. I don't have some big like dialogue to go with that. I just think it's really, really cool. Like, when was the last time we've been able to say that? Genuinely. When was the last time? And like this is not just, oh, like he's maybe going to be an all-star. Oh, like we have a top 20 pitcher in baseball. This dude is number one. He is the number, like Verlander, right? Or I guess Scherzer, either one you want to pick, was like the last time that we had a guy that you could look at and be like, that's probably the best pitcher in baseball. And even then, like you had, in Verlander's entire career, like he was in the American League, and then you had Kershaw in the National League at his peak at the exact same time. Scherzer, I guess, somewhat similarly, right? Like you had, I don't know, even like early in Verlander's career, you had like Jake Peavy, people forget, was really, really phenomenal. Like just having a guy who is just the bona fide, you look around baseball, you're like, that dude's probably number one, is just so awesome. And who could have possibly imagined, it wasn't one of the top picks, right? We have the number one overall pick. We take Mize, right? We're taking all of these first round talents, and the guy that, when was Skubal drafted, the 7th, the 9th, that had serious arm surgery coming out of college, or in college rather, and whatnot, just comes through, lights up. I will never forget his strikeout numbers in Double-A. Tarik Skubal's, if you want to take a look at something fun, his K per 9 when he was in Double-A, I don't think it ended, but at one point in his Double-A stint, it was like 14 or 15 per 9 as a starter. And then again, it kind of naturally, that's not going to maintain. He fell down a little bit, but those are some pretty short outings as well. But still, just watching the progression he's had, and now to be the favorite for American League Cy Young here, as we're a month away from the All-Star break, is just absolutely awesome. So shout out Tarik Skubal. We got one, right? With all this stuff surrounding this team, and can they take the next step forward, and who's going to be here long term, and who are the stars that we're going to build around. No matter what your opinion of Torkelson is, of Green is, of Carpenter is, of Mize is, like the list goes on, we got one right. And Tarik Skubal is unbelievable. And sometimes it's just nice to sit back and appreciate the fact that, as Kevin Malone says, it's just nice to win one. So I just wanted to give him his flowers there. Let's move on and talk about some players rather, in the Tigers system that may be knocking on the door to get promoted. I think that this is kind of a fascinating conversation. We're going to mostly, in this episode, look at players who have been demoted by the Tigers this season, right? Check in on Parker Meadows, check in on Alex Lang, etc. Because I think it's really easy to, when you talk about players who may get DFA'd or optioned at the major league level, it's really easy to go, okay, well, like if Alex Lang's pitching well, obviously he's going to be the guy that comes back, right? So we're going to do an update on those players, I think, first. And then if there's anybody else that kind of jumps out at me down in Toledo, we can talk about them as well. So we'll start off by talking about Parker Meadows, who has a 976 OPS in AAA, 6 home runs, just had a mammoth of a home run on Wednesday night. So last night for me, 2 nights ago for you, if you're listening to this on Friday. He's been absolutely crushing the baseball. And the thing is, he's kind of been crushing the baseball. Maybe took him a couple of games to like hone in on it, but he's really been crushing his whole time down there. And that just continues to reiterate the point that I'm so sorry to the people that listen every day, that it just sounds like I'm repeating myself and saying the same thing so often. But the gap between these two leagues is staggering right now. It is the largest it has ever been in the history of our beautiful sport. So, like, that's awesome. I would prefer an OPS of almost 1,000 versus if he was going down there and hitting 215, right? With an OPS of 650. Like, I certainly prefer this. I'm glad. But this organization knows the holes in the zone for him. They know where he is struggling. They know what he has to improve on. We've talked about it before he got sent down, right? He does have some holes in his swing. Fastballs up and away was just literally could not make contact on most of them when he was in the majors. And then he's had some trouble with some spin low and inside as well. I mean, they know that he has to improve on that and just deal with higher velocity in general. There's a huge velocity gap between AAA and the majors right now as well. So this is awesome, but I also don't think there's anyone Like, who, if you were to call Parker Meadows back up, right? If you're like, okay, he's ready. Even if you're in that camp, who are you sending down to call him up? Right? He's playing center field. That is where he is playing 100% if he gets called up, nowhere else. Right? Riley Green's not going anywhere. Matt Vierling's not going anywhere. I don't think you're going to send Winfield Perez down. He's been swinging a really hot stick. Mark Hanna's obviously not going anywhere. He's got to play first base now. And you just called up Justin Henry Malloy, who's going to be corner outfield and DH. So, like, that's great that he's hitting well. I hope he continues his progression and whatnot. But really, unless Winfield Perez just like falls off a table and starts really struggling mightily, I don't think we see Parker Meadows for a while, no matter how well he hits, to be completely honest with you. He had an opportunity against Major League pitching. He didn't take advantage of it. He struggled a lot. And right now, everybody in their outfield is like at or above league average OPS, right? And then you have Justin Henry Malloy, obviously, who's only played 3 games and you just called up. I don't think you're just going to send him right back down. So that again, I hope he continues to hit. I hope he's ready. He will be a Tiger at some point again this year. I'm not trying to say you just keep him down there the rest of the season. He absolutely will come back, but like I think there's just like this misconception. A lot of people just point at players and go, "Oh, you're struggling, send you down," or "Oh, you're hitting really well, bring you up." It's like you have to find room. I genuinely don't think there's guaranteed room. Not that any of the guys in the outfield are, again, like 850 or better OPS, like all-star caliber hitters. But Parker Meadows was batting like 090, right? Against Major League pitching. So he's played in 22 games down there. I'm not sure that he's just like completely figured it out. I think he needs to see more Major League pitching. I think that's going to be big for his development to do that, similar to what I said about Colt Keith and Malloy. But as it stands right now, I think they're going to go with the outfielders that are actually hitting at the Major League level and not go, "Oh, let's try again." But again, somebody will fall off. Winfield Perez, Justin Henry Malloy, somebody will struggle and Meadows or get hurt. And Meadows will absolutely get another chance. I'm not trying to say that he won't be here ever again. I promise you, he will be a Tiger again at some point in this season. I really don't think it's anytime soon. Let's talk Alex Lang a little bit, then we'll talk Jace Young, Dylan Dingler, a couple other guys. We'll do all of that right after this. Going to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Prize Picks. Look, with Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make Prize Picks, an entire lineup of Prize Picks, in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you are locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats on Tuesdays, which increases your chance, obviously, of getting a win, or to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and you can get in on all the daily action with your friends and become a part of the PrizePicks community today. There's so many fun player stats to look at. Obviously, a really fun time in the NHL and NBA, but you also, one of my favorite things to do, I talk about all the time, is just starting pitching strikeouts, right? Aaron Nola, 7, more or less than 7 strikeouts in his next outing. Jack Flaherty, the more, has been doing really well for Jack Flaherty lately. Obviously, Tarik Skubal, a really fun one as well. So you can take a look at those. Again, a lineup of 2 to 6. You can get done really quickly and join in on all the fun action today. So download the app today and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKDOWNMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So probably spent a little bit too much time, honestly, on Parker Meadows. Just really wanted to drive that point home. Looking around, again, Alex Lang is another guy that is going to be a hot topic of conversation. Has done really well down there. He has thrown in 5 games, 1 inning each. So 5 innings of 1.8 ERA baseball. The biggest thing, though, like, that's great. He should have a ridiculously low ERA against AAA pitching. He has some of the best stuff I've ever seen out of a Tigers reliever. Okay. And his strikeout numbers are good. He has 6 strikeouts in 5 innings. He should have really good strikeout numbers against minor league hitting. The only thing I care about with this, genuinely, could not care less about his ERA, could not care less about his strikeout numbers, is the walk numbers. And so far in 5 innings, he has not allowed a walk. Now that's 5 innings. This is not like, oh, problem solved, bring him back up, right? Like that's not how this is going to work. But over a prolonged period of time, if he keeps the walk numbers down, that is what this organization wants to see. I think as fans, sometimes I'm guilty of it for sure, sometimes as well. We get a little bit too honed in on like yo-yoing players, and you can't do that. You can't just be like, oh, like he had 3 good games, get him back up here, he's ready again. I think we have backup quarterback syndrome sometimes, right? Where it's like, oh, well, like it's like the Family Guy sketch where you could have a boat or the mystery box, and like, what's in the mystery box? I don't know. It could even be a boat, right? Like, you have to look at what's in front of you, and that's kind of a similar conversation with Parker Meadows as well, right? Like that's great that he's doing well. This is a very small sample size. That doesn't mean that his problems are just solved because he's dominating AAA. Same with Parker Meadows, right? That doesn't mean he's just like guaranteed figured it out because he's had 20 good games in AAA after hitting like 100 at the major league level for like 2 months. So we'll keep an eye on them. I'm very pleased by these numbers. I'm not disappointed. It's just I think there needs to be a bigger sample size here. Alex Lang might get also the benefit of this bullpen is just struggling, and like how much longer you're going to go with Joey Wentz and Mason Englert. Andrew Chafin, we talk about, he's been struggling. Like they might just look around and go, all right, well, like we got to call him back up because we can't just roll out a bunch of guys with 6 ERAs all season either. So Alex Lang might be the beneficiary of some of that. Someone I kind of like in Toledo is Sean Gunther. He's not on the 40-man roster, so if they were to call him up, they would have to make roster move for him. They can do that pretty easily. I promise the 40-man roster is not the deepest in baseball or even close. If they really wanted to, they could. He's got a 2.45 ERA in 25 innings pitched. Decent strikeout numbers, nothing crazy. Probably going to be more of a pitch to weak contact kind of ground ball guy, but I really like his breaking ball offering and have for a while. He has pretty low walk numbers as well. Guy that, is going to dominate the strike zone kind of thing. Now, 3 years ago in his one Major League Baseball stint, he was dreadful. He had like an ERA over 9 for a decent amount of innings for the Marlins. And this is, again, like 2021. So we're far enough removed from that. He's only 28 years old. He's also a lefty. So again, like if you have this issue where you really want to move on from Joey Wentz or Andrew Chafin doesn't figure it out over the next few weeks, it's at least a lefty in your system that can possibly do something. Now, again, I don't want to become the backup quarterback syndrome thing either. I'm not saying that Gunther's going to go out there and be like what Tyler Holton was last year. But I think it at least gives you somewhat of an option if you do want to move on from one of those guys. And then the other 2 conversations that are pretty easy to have. First off, I love Andrew Navigato. He's not going to get called up anytime soon, but absolutely love him. Jace Young and Dylan Dingler, both hitting very, very well. Jace Young, 883 OPS, 277 average with, I want to say, 8 home runs. Yeah, and then Dylan Dingler, 304 batting average and an 870 OPS, 7 home runs. Let's start with Jace Young. I think he needs to get better defensively. I don't think he's getting called up anytime soon. Also, like third base hasn't been a major issue this season, right? Like I'm not, Jace Young has the highest ceiling of third base in the organization. Okay. I'm not trying to deter anybody or trying to convince you of anything otherwise there, but like Matt Beardling's been playing a lot of third. Matt Beardling's been hitting pretty well lately, right? Like Andy Ibanez plays third sometimes when a lefty is on the mound. He hits lefties pretty well. Gio Urshela's been your cleanup hitter lately. Like, not that that's a good indication of the lineup, but like you have bigger holes on your roster than third base, I guess is my point. So I'm not really sure they're in any position to rush him if they don't think he's ready either. He still has a swing and miss issue that they're trying to iron out as well. And then Dylan Dingler, I don't expect to see Dingler anytime soon. Now, if there's an injury to either of the catchers, then there you go. Everybody's going to get their wish. It's going to be Dylan Dingler season. At full health, I still don't expect it. There's so much that goes into being a catcher with working with the pitchers and game calling, etc. And he would have to really get caught up pretty quickly there. I think if he was called up, let's say he's called up for Carson Kelly, I think Jake Rogers would probably just catch most games, and Dylan Dingler would get maybe one a series. So I don't think they're gonna like pull the trigger on that anytime soon. But it is really good to see him finally hitting well. He's 25 years old, right? Like Dylan Dingler's not. He was out of college a few years ago. So seeing him really hit well and take that step in the minor league level is a beautiful sight to see. I do expect to see him in a Tigers uniform at some point as well. And I think, if Carson Kelly, I don't love how Carson Kelly calls games all the time. So I do think if there is, if he struggles offensively at any point and you're like, okay, well, Carson Kelly's OPS is down to 600, then you might go, okay, let's see what Dingler has. But I think right now, and I know that's going to like bother some people, and some people really want to see him up here. I do too. I love catchers more than anybody, and this dude's been hitting really well. I want to see him up here as well. Just, I think from the organization's perspective, I don't expect to see him really anytime soon. Okay, so looking ahead, you play the Milwaukee Brewers this weekend, obviously. So all of their starting pitching matchups, as it stands right now at the time of this recording, are TBD. So I don't know anything. They've been doing a lot of openers this week. They're coming off a 3-game series sweep to the Philadelphia Phillies, who have the best record in baseball, tied for the best record in baseball. It's either them or the Yankees. They've been phenomenal this year, so not really an indication of the Brewers. The Brewers have a pretty darn good record as well. They are 36-26, so 10 games over 500. The Tigers obviously being 5 games then back from the Brewers. Is a 3-game set. The one pitcher I do think that you're probably going to see is Freddie Peralta. He hasn't pitched, I want to say, in 4 days for the Brewers. I think he pitched in that series finale against the White Sox last weekend, and you're now on to the next weekend, obviously. So Freddie Peralta is one of the best strikeout and swing and miss artists in the sport. Phenomenal slider, electric fastball. One of my favorite pitchers to watch in all of baseball. Really, really fun. Now, you don't have to deal with that 3-headed monster of Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta anymore. It's just Freddie Peralta is the only one standing as far as that trio goes left in Milwaukee. But again, they have some really good long relievers and some guys that they're doing piggyback starts with. Colin Ray, I know, has been getting some looks in roles like that. So I would imagine that we see an opener at least once this weekend. It won't be in the Freddie Peralta start, but maybe in another one. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, this is a Milwaukee Brewers team that actually has been hitting pretty decently lately, which is something that was always the big knock on them, right? Was that like they have great pitching and no hitting. And I mean, if you just look up and down their lineup, obviously you have like guys like Willy Adames, who's an above league average hitter. Tigers taught him everything he knows. I will stand on that. Obviously a joke, but Christian Yelich is back, has an OPS over 900. It's been really solid. Obviously Contreras has been really, really good for them this year as well. Rhys Hoskins, OPS over 800 for them this year. And then one of the biggest stories in the NL Central this year has been the surgence of Joey Ortiz, who they got obviously in that Corbin Burns trade, a prospect I've really liked for a while. I know Regilio over at Motor City Metrics is a big fan of him as well. He's the guy that put me onto him when he was younger. But yeah, has an OPS of 876 and is almost hitting 290. A really good bat to ball hitter, has been great for the Brewers this season. So kind of a weird change of pace. You're seeing some more offense from the Brewers, and they lost some pitching, but they still have some really solid pitching, and obviously are again 10 games over 500, leading the NL Central pretty comfortably at the time of this recording. So this is a good team. You play at home, and then after that, just looking ahead, kind of the rest of the month of June, you play the Nationals after that, who can be a little scrappy. They're a good like put the ball in play type of team, but you should beat the Nationals at home. The Astros, who are just in an absolute tailspin right now. Not only are they just flat out not playing well this season, but a plethora of injuries on top of that. Then you have the Braves, who lost Ronald Acuna Jr., have not been playing up to like Braves caliber baseball, but that's still 11 games over 500 at the time of this recording. Then the White Sox, who are one of the worst teams we've ever seen. The Phillies, who are the best team in baseball. And then the Angels, who are dreadful. That's the rest of your month of June. So some opportunities, we'll call it. Some opportunities. This is not like you look and you go, "Oh my goodness, we're like I'm expecting to lose, 10 straight, or I'm expecting the Tigers to go in a complete tailspin." If they do that, then this team is just not very good and something has gone horribly wrong. You have plenty of opportunities to get some wins under your belt, keep your head above water, and go into July or even the All-Star break still around 500. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday recapping again this series against the Milwaukee Brewers, as well as any and all news surrounding the Tigers organization. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I appreciate you all greatly. I'll catch you on Monday, baby. Go Tigers.